Discover the incredible journey of a mother of twins thrown out. Exposed to a billionaire's life. Sarah never imagined a dingy eviction notice could turn her life upside down. The hard truth was pinned to her door like an unwanted reminder. It was loud, bold, and terrifying, just like her fears of how she'd feed her 3 small children. Her heart raced as she ran her fingers over the rough paper, dread pooling in her stomach. With twins, Mickey and Mia, only 7 years old, and her eldest, 12-year-old Lucas, she felt the weight of the world pressing down on her. In her tight-knit suburb of Ohio, where everyone knew one another, the sense of community was literally at her doorstep. Just a week before the eviction notice, Mrs. Hawkins from next door had knocked, arms laden with steaming, delicious casseroles. "You're not alone, dear," she had said, eyes filled with empathy, as she handed over the food. It was little moments like these that reminded Sarah that hope still flickered in the hardest of times. As days turned into sleepless nights, the pressure ballooned. Thoughts of job applications muddled into nightmares of failure. She racked her brain for answers, trying to channel her inner strength. But how could she balance dreams of a better life for her kids with the dismal reality of overdue bills? The laughter of her children echoed around her, mixing with her tears in the stillness of their modest living room. Just then, the phone beeped with a message, an invitation to a charity gala hosted by an enigmatic billionaire named Jake. Sarah initially thought it was a joke. But as she read through the details, her heart began to race. This could be a chance, an opportunity to network and wiggle out of her tight spot. What did she have to lose? So, she put on her best dress, an old, but still shimmering number from her early 20s, and attended, grieving the unfairness of her situation amid opulence. The gala was breathtaking. Waiters glided by with trays full of champagne while chandeliers sparkled overhead. Sarah felt out of place, but also enchanted. And that's when Jake appeared, charming and effortlessly captivating. He didn't see her as just another guest, he noticed the spark in her eyes. There was something intriguing about Sarah, he said, as if he were seeing not just the struggles but the resilience shining through. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the night wore on, Jake's presence wrapped around her like a warm embrace. But with each smile, another dilemma unfurled. He wasn't just rich, he was a man burdened by scandals. Did he see her as more than a pretty face? She wrestled with the growing allure of wealth balanced against the roots that anchored her to reality. Her gaze drifted to her phone, memories of her kids tugging at her heart. They needed her grounded, not grasping at glimmering stars. But the tension hung heavy. Could she trust her instincts? Suddenly, a voice whispered in her mind, "What about your neighbors, your community?" Sarah faced an emotional storm, ranking familial loyalty against a slippery slope of privilege. As the music played softly around her, Sarah realized something had shifted. She could choose to carve out a path or allow a rich man's game to dictate her story. With her heart hammering furiously against her ribcage, she took a breath and knew that this gala moment would change everything. But how? Would she reach for Jake's outstretched hand or pull away, determined to find her own light? The question echoed loudly, leaving her teetering at the edge of a choice that could alter everything. Sarah's hand trembled as she looked at Jake's inviting smile. The world around her faded momentarily, the music blurring into the background, replaced by the frantic beat of her heart. He was charismatic, his presence radiating confidence. But behind every charm, she sensed a burden. He was not just a billionaire, he was a man with his own secrets, his own battles. What will it be, Sarah? She thought, mimicking the weighty question that hung like a cloud in her mind. Part of her wanted to lean into this moment, to let go of the burdens that shackled her down. But another part whispered caution, a call for self-preservation, for the well-being of her kids. "Mickey and Mia are counting on you," she reminded herself as her fingers slipped over the edge of her glass. She needed to make choices that ensured their safety and happiness, not just her own fleeting desires. As the evening continued, Sarah found herself pulled into conversations with a few other guests. They shared laughter, hopes, and dreams. Yet, in the midst of genuine connection, she couldn't shake the feeling of wearing a mask. Maybe they were drawn to her because of the mystery that came with her struggles. It made her question, was she anything beyond her circumstances? Jake reappeared beside her, catching the tail end of her thoughts. "You seem deep in thought," he remarked, tilting his head slightly, his smile dancing in the low light. "I was just thinking about life," she replied, keeping her voice even. With the children on her mind, she added quickly, "And how quickly things can change." "Tell me about it," he said, his tone more serious now. "I understand what it means to feel trapped beneath pressures nobody else can see." In those words, Sarah felt a flicker of understanding. Maybe behind his billionaire facade, there lay pain similar to hers. Was his smile a way to mask his struggles? She had no way of knowing. But there was one thing she was sure of: she fought for her children, and every decision must echo that commitment. As she sipped her drink, her thoughts wandered. Could she perhaps share her story with him? Not to garner sympathy but to connect over shared human experiences? Before she could overthink, she took a leap of faith. "What about you, Jake? What drives you?" He hesitated, a shadow flickering across his face. "You know, sometimes success doesn't fill the empty spaces," he finally admitted, his voice quiet, their eyes locked for a heartbeat, and she felt the weight of a billion unspoken words between them. A sudden kinship surged, raw yet fragile. It dawned on her how vulnerable both of them really were, trapped by circumstances they hadn't chosen. Just then, the gala's music swelled, and a moment of raucous laughter shattered the intensity of their connection. Sarah pulled herself back, blinking away what felt like a tender moment between them. What were they even standing on? A precipice of dreams, or merely a facade of wealth and glamour? "Would you like to dance?" Jake asked, breaking through her thoughts. Dance? The thought sent a rush of warmth through her. She could say yes, lose herself in the rhythm, feel the highs and lows of life celebrated in shared movement. Or she could put up walls, retreat back into the comfort of her reality. Maybe she began, weighing the options. But just as she was about to step forward, her phone buzzed again, Lucas' face flashing on the screen. Reality check. He needed her. The moment, already delicate, snapped like a fragile thread. "Sorry, I need to take this," she said quickly, backing away from the dance floor. Jake's smile faded slightly, but understanding illuminated his eyes. Outside, the night air was refreshing, brushing against her skin like a gentle reminder of her responsibilities. As she answered Lucas' call, she heard his laughter, pure and bright, and it anchored her heart. But as she stepped further away from the gala spectacle, a thought lingered in her mind. Was this beautiful chaos enough to build a future? With Jake's gaze still lingering in her thoughts, Sarah faced a crossroad. She could step back into the world of glittering dreams or return to her reality, now weighed down by this disquieting connection. Amidst her children's voices, she could almost hear Jake's laughter still echoing inside her. Would this encounter push her toward a brighter tomorrow, or would she lose herself chasing after an illusion? One thing was certain: she was standing on the edge of a decision that could change everything. And deep down, she knew the next move would come with a cost. But what cost was she willing to pay? The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver glow over the bustling streets as Sarah strolled carefully away from the gala, her heart wrestling within her. Lucas's laughter faded into the background, but it was an anchor she clung to. Her children needed her, yet a tiny voice within urged her to entertain a different path, just for a moment. She paced the sidewalk, her thoughts tangled. She had turned her back on Jake's invitation, not just to dance, but to explore a connection that felt magnetic. An unusual warmth lingered where their eyes had met, a bond forged from shared burdens. What if this was a chance for her to reclaim parts of herself she had buried deep? The pressure of the gala's glow receded, revealing the reality of her life like a fresh bruise. She had built walls around her heart, thickened by years of sacrifice, loneliness, and fear. With each step, she felt the weight of those walls pressing down on her. What was it like to be open again? Could she ever allow herself to step away from that protective layer? Just then, her phone buzzed once more. It was Mia. "Mommy, when are you coming home? I miss you." Her tiny voice, filled with innocent need, melted Sarah's heart. "I'll be home soon, sweetheart," she replied, forcing a smile that only she could see. But the emptiness echoed back at her. Was staying away just a moment longer selfish? What if walking back into her old life meant shutting down the flicker of hope Jake had ignited? As she continued down the street, her thoughts raced. She recalled Jake's words, "Success doesn't fill the empty spaces." She felt the truth of that unspoken confession, resonating deep within her soul. What if they both looked for solace in the wrong places? Wealth, glamour, a crowded gala, they all felt distant compared to the warmth of genuine connection. Would allowing herself to reach out bring a sense of fulfillment? Glimmers of doubt crept in. Was she chasing after a dream that would only lead to heartache? The juxtaposition of Jake's world against her own complicated matters. She loved her kids fiercely, yet a yearning for someone outside their bubble gnawed at her. Visions of Jake's smile flitted through her mind, every soft laugh and quirk of his brow replaying like a catchy tune stuck on repeat. Could a man like him even understand what it meant to have choice stripped away? Did he realize she wasn't just trying to survive? She wanted to thrive, for herself and for Mickey and Mia. With a sudden determination, Sarah paused, her breath hitching in her throat. She could take the plunge. Maybe she could afford to dance between possibilities. Maybe, just this once, she could allow a crack in her armor. Her thumbs hovered over her phone screen. She hovered on the contact named Jake, heart racing. Would he be receptive, or would he see her as just another headache, a woman tangled in her own life? She hesitated only for a moment before her fingers began to type. "Can we talk? Just a conversation. No sparkly events, just us." It felt daring and exhilarating, and she hit send before fear could wrap around her resolve. She stood there scanning the street like it held answers, anticipation rising within her. Whatever awaited her on the other end of that message might redefine everything. As the minutes ticked by, her heart raced with uncertainty. Had she crossed a line? Would Jake even respond? Just then, her phone buzzed. The screen flashed, and she held her breath. One brief glance at the message preview and a shiver of warmth rushed through her. "Yes, let us talk." When and where? In that moment, Sarah knew she was stepping into the unknown. What door had she just opened, and would she be brave enough to walk through it? With her heart pounding in both fear and hope, she began to craft a response. Little did she know, this exchange might lead to the ultimate revelation about her life, her choices, and the paths that still lay ahead. Would she be ready for whatever awaited her on the other side? The city lights shimmered around her, but Sarah felt as though she stood in a bubble of her own uncertainty. She stared at her phone, fingers quivering above the keyboard. Just hours ago, she had danced around the idea of reaching out to Jake, and now his spontaneous response both thrilled and terrified her. Tomorrow morning. How about the coffee shop on Maple? She pressed her thumb over the send button, her heart still beating wildly. She walked with purpose but felt disconnected from her surroundings, the world blurring into a haze of colors and sounds. What had she done? As she crossed the street, she replayed the last few hours in her head, every laugh and glance from the gala playing out like a scene in a movie. The memory of Jake's earnest gaze sent a shiver down her spine, a reminder of both possibility and vulnerability. With every step toward home, reality intruded. As she turned the corner onto their block, the comforting sight of her small house loomed ahead, its worn shingled roof and flickering porch light welcoming her. Inside were the very reasons she had walked away from the gala, the messy, beautiful chaos of her children. She hesitated for a moment, staring at the door, anxiety swirling in her chest. Would they welcome her with open arms, or would her absence hang in the air like an unspoken tension? Mickey's voice broke her reverie as she opened the door. "Mommy. You're back." He bounded toward her, his little arms outstretched. Mia followed, her sleepy face lighting up with a smile. Those tiny hands clung around her waist, grounding her in everything that mattered. I missed you so much. Her daughter exclaimed, her voice thick with innocence. I missed you too, my loves, Sarah replied, bending down to envelop them both in a warm hug. In that precious moment, the disarray of her thoughts quieted. There was love, warmth, and a feeling of home that chased away the shadows lurking in her mind. After the children settled in for bed, Sarah slipped away to the kitchen, the stillness of the night replacing the endless chatter of her day. She poured herself a cup of herbal tea, steam curling up toward the ceiling like her swirling thoughts. What would tomorrow bring? As she settled at the kitchen table, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Jake, looking forward to it. You okay with espresso? It's the best in town. A small smile spread across her face, one that felt new and unfamiliar but refreshing in its innocence. She was taking a leap into uncharted territory, and yet part of her found exhilaration in that, but before she could respond, images of tomorrow danced in her mind. What if Jake looked at her with pity? What if he saw right through her and turned away when he realized how messy her life was? How could she explain the burdens of being a mother of twins, the endless cycle of laundry, tantrums, and bedtime stories? The warmth of the children's hugs faded, replaced with the chill of doubt. Her heart raced at the thought of revealing too much or coming off as too vulnerable. Yet, what if sharing her journey with Jake opened new doors? Suddenly, everything felt precarious, teetering on the edge of a possibility she hadn't dared to believe in until now. Setting her phone down and staring out the window at the night sky, she whispered to herself, "Can I really do this?" The question hung in the air, suspended in uncertainty as distant stars flickered, a reminder of just how vast her choices could be. As sleep brushed against her with its gentle hands, Sarah felt a current beneath her thoughts. Maybe stepping into this new chapter would mean facing her fears head-on. Maybe it was time to embrace the messiness of life and not run away from it. In her heart, hope stirred alongside fear. Tomorrow could either lead to a deeper understanding of herself or a bitter reminder of what could never be. With that bittersweet realization, she closed her eyes, a quiet resolve forming within her. But what amazing secrets lay behind Jake's charming exterior, waiting for her to discover? Would she dare to uncover them? The morning sun peeked through the curtains, gently nudging Sarah from her restless sleep. Thoughts of her meeting with Jake flooded her mind, mixing excitement with trepidation. Could she really step into a world defined by espresso and carefully crafted smiles? Shaking off the remnants of sleep, she shuffled to the kitchen, the cool tiles sending a tiny shock through her feet. She poured herself another cup of tea, taking a moment to breathe as the steam warmed her face. The house felt oddly silent, save for the faint stirrings of her children still nestled in bed. After a hurried shower and getting dressed in clothes that felt slightly less than perfect, she stood in front of the mirror. She practiced a smile, twisting her lips until they felt less foreign and more sincere. The butterflies in her stomach danced wildly, competing with the pulse of her racing heart. "Okay, you've got this," she whispered to her reflection. As she tossed her hair into a hurried ponytail, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Jake, "Can't wait to see you. Let us meet at 10. A wave of reassurance washed over her as she read his message, but it was followed swiftly by doubt. What would she even say? What kind of conversation would flow as smoothly as the coffee they would drink? Clutching the edge of the sink, she closed her eyes. Mickey wandered into the kitchen, his messy hair sticking up in rebellion. "Mommy, can I have cereal?" "Of course, honey. But first, do you think I look okay?" she asked, trying to mask the nervous edge in her voice. He squinted, craning his neck to view her from different angles. "You look pretty. Like a princess." That bright sincerity made Sarah chuckle, lending her a glimmer of confidence. "Thank you. I feel like I'll need a magic wand today," she said, ruffling his hair as he giggled. As she poured cereal into bowls, her mind shifted back to Jake. What if things didn't go as planned? What if he didn't like her? "Mommy, are you going to see Jake? The funny guy?" Mia's voice drifted in, her eyes still heavy with sleep but gleaming with curiosity. "Yeah, I am," Sarah replied, trying to keep her tone upbeat. I met him last night at the gala. Is he going to be my friend too? A small laugh escaped her lips. I hope so, sweetie. With breakfast done and the kids happily munching away, Sarah quickly packed a small bag. She slipped her phone, a brush, and a bright lipstick into the compartment, little touches to make her feel more prepared. As she stepped outside, the fresh morning air filled her lungs, sending a jolt of energy through her. The walk to the coffee shop on Maple felt surreal, each step heavy with anticipation. The world bustled around her, office workers rushing, children laughing, but inside she was like a deer caught in headlights. When she finally arrived, the quaint little shop was alive, filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. The sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on everything. She felt nervous, but also oddly comforted by the familiar routine. Hi. Just a minute, please, came the barista's cheerful voice. As she waited, Sarah scanned the room. And there, next to a table by the window, was Jake. He looked up and their eyes met, sending warmth flooding through her like sunlight on a chilly day. His smile reached his eyes, a spark of something familiar. Was it possibility? Wasn't he that what she had longed for? But as her heart fluttered in response, another fear crept in. How could she share her life with him when it felt so chaotic and unrefined? Sarah! Jake called, waving her over. Her pulse quickened. She hadn't prepared for this moment. With each step toward him, the question popped back into her mind. Did she dare to share her truth? Feeling both terrified and thrilled, Sarah approached, ready to dive into the unknown. As Jake stood to greet her, she thought, maybe this was exactly the leap she needed. What if Jake had his own secrets? What if, beneath his charming exterior, he harbored a story that could change everything? Would she be brave enough to uncover it? Sarah felt a mix of relief and apprehension as she reached Jake's table. The moment their eyes locked, the world around her faded. It was just the two of them, suspended in that instant. He stood tall, the sunlight outlining his features in a way that made him look almost ethereal. You made it! He exclaimed, his voice warm and genuine. Of course. I wouldn't miss this, she replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. As she sat down, she noticed a notebook on the table. It looked worn, the pages dog-eared and filled with scribbles. A glimpse of his thoughts? The idea of peeking into his mind stirred a strange fascination in her. So, what's your drink of choice? He asked, leaning forward with an eager smile. Just tea for me, she said, her voice slightly shaky. I'm not quite coffee ready yet. Tea is just as good. Besides, it means we can share some coffee without me hogging all the caffeine, he laughed. They exchanged light banter, the initial awkwardness gradually fading as they found their rhythm. As Sarah took a sip from her teacup, she felt the warmth seep through her body, easing her nerves. With every passing moment, she noticed how easy it was to talk to him. They discussed everything from their favorite childhood memories to the quirks of parenthood. How do you handle two at once? Jake asked, his eyes twinkling mischievously. I can barely keep track of my own schedule. It's a continuous juggling act, for sure. Some days feel like an audition for a circus, trying to keep them happy while also not losing my mind, she laughed, and then quickly stifled it, unsure if that was the impression she wanted to leave. That sounds incredible, really. I imagine you've got some tricks up your sleeve, he replied, nodding. His genuine interest in her life sent another wave of warmth through her. But as their laughter hung in the air, a nagging thought slipped into the back of her mind. How long could this connection last? The life she lived was intertwined with chaos. Would he still find her charming if he saw the mess behind her polished exterior? Just then, Jake paused, as if sensing her fleeting confidence. You know, for the record, nobody's perfect. I'm just a guy running a business, trying to figure things out like everyone else, he said, his brow furrowing slightly. His words struck a chord. Here was a man who, despite the success and charm, was willing to expose a hint of vulnerability. Could she share her truth now? Before she could respond, Jake leaned back and stared thoughtfully out the window, as if he were wrestling with something deep within himself. "You'd be surprised how much I value honesty," he said slowly, his gaze still fixated outside. "Sometimes it's what we hide that reveals who we truly are." The implications of his words hung heavily in the air. What was he hiding? What if his truths mirrored her own uncertainties? Feeling an unexpected rush of courage, Sarah leaned in and whispered, "I guess we all wear masks sometimes." Jake turned to her, eyes narrowed with interest. "What if we took them off? Just for a moment?" She felt her heart race at his challenge. Maybe it was time she stepped into the light, beyond her fears and worries. But what would she say? Would she reveal the chaotic reality of raising twins alone, the heartbreak of their father's absence? Or was there a part of her that wanted to keep her past safely tucked away? As the silence stretched between them, Sarah realized this was more than just a meeting over tea. This was a moment laden with possibility, transformation, and perhaps a revelation that could change everything. But could she allow herself to be this vulnerable? Could she let him into her complicated world? "Let us take that leap together, shall we?" Jake said, a warm smile breaking through the uncertainty they both felt. Taking a deep breath, Sarah knew she was standing on the edge of something profound. She was ready, but first, she needed to decide what to share, and what might happen if she did. In that moment, beneath the tranquil setting, the stakes felt high. Would this plunge into honesty forge a deeper connection or lead to a chasm too wide to bridge? As the sun continued its descent, casting a warm golden hue around them, Sarah felt the weight of her thoughts pushing against her chest. The vibrant chatter in the cafe faded into a soft hum, leaving only the sound of her heartbeat in her ears. She knew this was a crucial moment, one that could shape the path of her life in ways she could hardly imagine. Jake's smile was still present, but now it bore the hint of anticipation. She could see it in his eyes, a mixture of curiosity and encouragement. His willingness to be vulnerable drew her closer, and for a fleeting moment, she felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in a while. Could he really handle the truth? "Okay," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "Life isn't exactly the way it looks from the outside." Jake leaned in, his attention entirely on her. "That's true for everyone, Sarah. Go on." Inhaling deeply, Sarah decided to throw caution to the wind. Being a single mom to twins is like watching a circus unfold every day. There are beautiful moments, but also endless challenges. His expression shifted, reflecting an understanding she hadn't expected. "I can't even begin to fathom how tough that must be." "What's the hardest part?" "It's the uncertainty," she confessed, her throat tightening. "Every day feels like a balancing act, and I'm terrified of dropping the ball. My twins deserve so much, and I don't know what the future holds for us, especially with their father being absent." Jake's brow furrowed slightly, and she noticed the waves of empathy washing over him. "I'm here to listen," he said quietly. Feeling liberated yet exposed, Sarah continued. "There are days when I feel like I'm failing. I can put on a brave face and laugh with them, but inside, I'm constantly questioning my choices. Will they understand why their dad isn't around? Will they grow up thinking they weren't enough?" As the weight of her revelations began settling in the space between them, Jake shifted closer, letting the silence wrap around them as he processed her words. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and earnest. "You're not failing. You're doing what you can with what you have. That's what makes you incredibly strong." Her heart swelled at his validation, and in that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Could he possibly be a source of strength? Would he still look at her with kindness after hearing the full story? "I want to know more about you, Jake," she said, wanting the same honesty he had shown her. "What hides behind the polished exterior?" He hesitated for a moment, his gaze drifting again to the window. It was as if the outside world had come to represent the burdens he carried. "I never really knew my father. He was a businessman never around except when he wanted something. I grew up feeling alone in a bustling city, struggling just to connect with anyone." His words resonated, echoing her feelings of isolation. "What about now?" she asked softly. "Do you find connection in your life?" Jake contemplated the question, his face illuminated by vulnerability. I'm working on it. Building a business took up my life. I thought success would fill the void, but it only deepened it. I crave real connections, but I'm terrified of the risks. Sarah felt a sigh of relief. This conversation was slowly unraveling the layers she kept wrapped tight. Isn't it funny? We're both scared of the same thing, she said, a smile breaking through her unease. In that shared understanding, there was a spark of hope, a connection that felt genuine. Maybe we can help each other figure it out, he suggested, a soft smile reflected in his eyes. As the evening dimmed, she realized they were standing on the brink of something new, an uncharted territory filled with potential, yet tinged with uncertainty. But just as the warmth enveloped her heart, the past crept in like a shadow. What if opening up led to disappointment again? What if she was too messy for someone like him? Sarah almost missed Jake's next words. Let us uncover our truths together. I think we both deserve a shot at finding something real, Dawn. You? She glanced into his eyes, uncertainty battling with hope. Are we really ready for that? In the tight space of the cafe, she sensed the air shifting. This could either be the beginning of an incredible journey or the step before a fall. Let us find out, he said, his gaze steady, compelling her to take a leap. As she contemplated his invitation, warmth spread through her chest. Could she truly let someone in, share the chaos and love that defined her life? With the night unfolding before them and the stakes rising higher, Sarah felt on the verge of a choice that could change everything. But wasn't that the thrill of living? And then she realized this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about them. Could she embrace not just her past but the possibility of a new future with Jake? The moment hung in the air like the last notes of a song, vibrating with promise and uncertainty. Sarah's heart raced not just from fear, but from a thrilling mix of hope. The evening was still young, and the cafe around them hummed with life, yet her world had narrowed down to this private bubble with Jake. Together? She whispered, letting the word linger. Absolutely, Jake replied, his smile widening with warmth. It was an invitation, a challenge wrapped in sincerity. As she met his gaze, Sarah felt the walls she'd built around her heart start to tremble. They were two people navigating through wounded pasts, yet standing shoulder to shoulder, determined to chart a new course. What if we could start fresh? Jake suggested, his enthusiasm infectious. We can learn about each other. No pressures, just two people trying to figure things out. That sounded blissfully simple, yet profoundly different from her reality. She weighed the gravity of it all. You mean like a friendship? She asked, hesitating still. More than a friendship, he clarified. I'm talking about forming a real connection. Like discovering your favorite ice cream flavor, it doesn't happen overnight, but when you find it, you cherish it. She chuckled softly, the metaphor warming her. Their banter lightened the atmosphere, forming a bridge over the choppy waters ahead. Chocolate chip cookie dough is my favorite, by the way, she said, feeling a blush creep across her cheeks. Good choice, he nodded, his expression playful. I'll remember that in our future ice cream runs. At that moment, the possibility of laughing over ice cream felt like a monumental leap. They could share secrets, fears, and even those little victories that made life less daunting. Could she dare to believe this could bloom into something beautiful? They continued to talk, weaving through memories and moments of laughter, uncovering layers of each other's lives. Sarah's worries about her twins crept in often, her protective instincts flaring at the thought of involving anyone new. But Jake listened, truly listening, as if she were revealing art in a gallery. I can give them the stability and love that they need, Jake said when they spoke about her kids. I may not know what it's like being a parent, but I know what it means to care deeply for someone. A flicker of hope ignited in Sarah. It was a scary thought, letting someone new into her children's lives. What if they don't accept you? What if they feel threatened? Jake leaned back, arms crossed, contemplatively. Then we take it slow. Winning hearts takes time. His calmness reassured her, and for the first time in ages, she found herself daring to imagine a life where she wasn't alone. Maybe Jake could be someone her twins could trust too. The thought spiraled into something hopeful. Sarah tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, smiling at the idea. "Let us do this. Let us uncover our truths together," she echoed his earlier sentiment, feeling invigorated. They agreed to meet the following week, a promise to dive deeper. But just as Sarah felt herself floating on a hopeful wave, reality crashed in. "Just so you know," she began, her voice steadier as the moment shifted. "I wouldn't compromise my kids for anything." "I wouldn't dream of it," Jake replied, pushing a hand through his hair, the sincerity gripping her heart. "Family comes first." The conversation shifted again, and she marveled at how easy it was to keep discovering Jake, layer by layer. Their laughter collided, the connection seeming to strengthen with every shared word. As they shared goodnights, Sarah found herself lingering at the door, hesitant to break this new feeling. Jake reached out, brushing his fingers against hers, a soft spark igniting between them. "I'll see you soon, Sarah," he whispered, a promise sealed in the space between their hands. The warmth of that brief touch lingered long after she stepped away. Her heart ached with a mix of caution and exhilaration. Was this the start of something magical, or the beginning of a bitter disappointment? Only time would tell, but she was ready now to stand on the edge, taking this leap with him. Would she find safety or vulnerability waiting on the other side? As she walked home under the twilight sky, the stars twinkling like beacons of hope, she contemplated the truth she had just begun to uncover. Would she be brave enough to let go of the past and embrace whatever lay ahead with Jake? And just then, the sharp call of a distant siren reminded her that life was unpredictable. Would she truly be able to keep her world from crumbling again? The following week came quickly, filling Sarah with nervous anticipation as she prepared for her coffee date with Jake. She spent the morning thinking about what to wear, glancing at herself in the mirror, and debating between casual and a bit dressy. Ultimately, she settled on a soft blue sweater that brought out the warmth in her eyes. The cafe buzzed with conversation and laughter when she arrived. But her heart raced not only from the excitement of seeing Jake but from the weight of her responsibilities. With every sip of her coffee, she reminded herself of her commitment to her twins, hoping that this new connection wouldn't disturb the fragile balance they had built. When Jake walked in, he looked even more handsome than she remembered, wearing a fitted shirt and jeans that hugged his frame just right. Their eyes locked, and a smile blossomed on his face, making the chaos of her thoughts fade momentarily. "Hey, you look great," he greeted, sliding into the chair across from her. "Thanks," she replied, feeling a blush creep back into her cheeks. "I was hoping to impress my company." Jake chuckled, his laughter infectious. "Consider me impressed. So, how's your week been?" As they exchanged small talk, she began to relax. The world melted away, and all she could focus on was the warmth of their connection. They shared stories. Sarah talked about her kids, their likes and dislikes, while Jake opened up about his career in finance, his obsession with the latest tech gadgets, and his gentle nature when it came to matters of the heart. But as they deepened their conversation, thoughts about her children lingered like an uninvited guest. "I really want to introduce you to Ethan and Emily soon," she mentioned, her voice cautious. "But I want it to be at the right time." "Of course," Jake nodded, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "I don't want to rush anything. I respect the bond you share with them." The sincerity in his response made her realize how lucky she was. He wasn't trying to force himself into their lives, something that put her at ease. They continued talking, laughing easily and sharing bits of themselves. It felt good to connect with someone who saw her not just as a mother but as Sarah, someone with her own interests and dreams. But as the conversation took a turn towards the future, a sense of foreboding draped itself around her shoulders. What if this ends up falling apart? She suddenly blurted, a frown crossing her lips. Jake leaned in, his expression steady. "What if it doesn't? We can explore this together, one step at a time. You've got to find the courage to step into the unknown, Sarah." His gaze held so many promises, and for the first time, she considered stepping away from her cautious fortress. As they finished their drinks, Sarah felt a surge of emotions, hope mixed with fear. Would she really allow herself to be open to the possibility of more? Time slipped away, and soon they found themselves outside, lingering under the glow of a streetlight. Jake hesitated, then stepped closer. I know it's a lot to take in, but I really like you, Sarah. Her heart thumped in her chest, a blend of excitement and anxiety. Did she dare to respond in kind? Before she could speak, a group of loud college students passed by, their laughter piercing the air. The moment slipped, and she was left with the noise of uncertainty. Let us take our time. We don't need to rush anything, she finally said, holding his gaze steady. Agreed, Jake responded, his smile softening, but deep inside, doubt crept in again. What if her past haunted her too much? As they walked together, her thoughts continued to race. She wondered whether she could truly invite someone into her carefully curated life, one that revolved around her children. Just as she thought they had reached a calm understanding, the sound of a familiar ringtone broke through her contemplation. It was her mother, an unexpected interruption that sent a jolt of anxiety through her. Can you hold on a second? She asked Jake, stepping away slightly to answer. Sure, he replied, watching her closely. Hi, Mom, she said, trying to sound chipper despite the weight weighing her down. Sarah. I just heard from the school the kids have a serious issue that needs addressing. Panic spiraled in her chest as her mother continued, but she kept glancing at Jake, who seemed caught between concern and confusion. We need to talk about this. It can't wait, her mother insisted, and Sarah felt the thread they had woven during the night begin to unravel. Mom, can you please? But the more she spoke, the more the sincerity of her evening faded. Sarah, I'm worried about them. We might need to make changes. As she hung up, the weight of her circumstances crashed down. Would the fragile hope she had kindled with Jake withstand this new wave of worry? The fear gripped her, and as she looked into Jake's eyes, she couldn't tell if he saw the turmoil brewing beneath her calm exterior. Would this be the moment that determined whether they would move forward or drift apart? And in that heartbeat, she felt the fragile thread between what she wanted and what needed to be done stretch thin. Would she let her past dictate her future, or could she find a way to balance hope and reality? With a heavy heart, Sarah stepped away from Jake, her mind racing with conflicting thoughts. The warmth of their connection felt like a distant ember, and now uncertainty loomed large over her. She took a breath, trying to push the anxiety of her mother's words away, but it clung like a shadow. Is everything all right? Jake's voice pulled her back, concern etched on his face. She nodded, though her heart told another story. My mom, she just dropped some news. It's about the kids, she started, each word heavy as lead. There are some issues at school that need addressing. Jake's expression shifted, a mix of understanding and apprehension. What do you mean? I am not sure yet. She wants to discuss it, but I'm worried it might disrupt everything. She could feel her vulnerable walls threatening to rise again, but this time, something compelled her to share the truth. It's just that I don't want anything to change. I've fought so hard to keep our lives stable. Change doesn't have to be bad, Jake said gently, his voice flowing like a comforting balm. Sometimes it's necessary for growth. He stepped closer, bridging the distance between them, and suddenly she felt a spark of courage. You're right, but I don't want you to feel like you have to deal with all my baggage. My kids come first always. Sarah, he said, his tone resolute, I'm not running away. I want to be here. Let us face this together. I'm in it for you and for them. His sincerity wrapped around her heart, and for the first time, a glimmer of trust began to thaw the worry freezing her inside. Together. As she repeated the word, an idea blossomed. Maybe sharing her struggles wouldn't scare him off. They could tackle her reality, and perhaps the bond they were building could withstand the unexpected chaos. Okay, she said, drawing courage from the connection they shared. Let us talk more. I'll find out what is going on with my kids and maybe we can discuss how to give them what they need. Absolutely. I care about you and whatever you're facing, he affirmed, his eyes filled with warmth and promise. At that moment, Sarah felt a shift. This wasn't just a connection built on flirting and laughter, it was a partnership burgeoning with support and understanding. They chatted briefly over coffee before parting, with a tentative plan to meet later in the week. The uncertainty of her kid's situation loomed still, but Sarah walked home feeling lighter than before. Within her house, the laughter of Mickey and Mia filled the air, their joy tugging at her heart. As she tucked them in that night, she decided to share bits of her day with them but filtered through a lens of positivity. "Mommy met someone nice today. He wants to help us," she began, watching their eyes widen with interest. "Is he our friend now?" Mia chirped, her tiny hands clutching her blanket with excitement. "Yes, he is. He cares about us," she replied, imagining how Jake might fit into their family while calming her own anxiety. As she kissed them goodnight, the fear of tomorrow's uncertainties began to shift. Maybe letting someone in didn't mean they needed to sacrifice their family bond. Jake could become part of their journey, a supportive figure in their lives. The days drifted by, and when she finally called her mother to discuss the school issues, Sarah found herself standing firm. They discussed the challenges her children faced and agreed on collaborative strategies, rather than hiding in fear. "Just because it's difficult doesn't mean we can't handle it, Mom," she asserted, her voice steady. "I want to face challenges head-on, not run from them." In that conversation, she felt herself grow into the role she had always inhabited, a fierce protector and caregiver. Later that week, as she prepared to meet Jake again, an unexpected peace settled within her. She had integrated him slowly into her life, but still, she kept her heart guarded. They were still building a foundation together, where obstacles could be faced together. When she arrived at the cafe, Jake was already waiting. The familiar warmth in his eyes made her pulse quicken, and as he stood to greet her, Sarah realized something fundamental. She was ready to let him in a little further. "How was your week?" he asked, his gaze sincere. "I took your advice about change," she said, a smile breaking through. "I discussed my kid's situation with my mom, and it felt good to confront it together." "See? Progress," he replied, pride lighting up his features. "I knew you had the strength." Their conversation flowed effortlessly as they shared updates about their lives. Sarah felt liberated discussing her twins, letting her parenting struggles unfold naturally. The comfortable intimacy ignited once more, and she took a leap of faith. "Jake, I'd like you to meet Mickey and Mia soon. I think letting you in will help solidify what we're building." A wide smile spread across his face, like the sunrise after a storm. "Really? I'd love that. I want to show them I'm here for their family." With each meeting, Sarah began to feel less alone. She began sharing pieces of herself, her hopes, fears, laughter, and, though it was still hard, her past. In return, Jake opened up about his aspirations and even the loneliness of having risen too high, too fast without real connections. Over time, Sarah found that this bond with Jake wasn't about chasing a glamorous lifestyle or escaping reality. It was about building a solid foundation, one where both their children could thrive. As seasons began to change, Mickey and Mia started to blossom under Jake's gentle demeanor. Events unfolded in ways neither party expected, but as they forged through new challenges, they found joy in the little moments. And one day, under the soft light of dusk, as Sarah watched her children share ice cream with Jake, laughter mingling with playful banter, she realized they had created something profoundly beautiful. The fear had dissipated, giving way to a sense of family interwoven with trust. "Thank you," she said quietly to Jake after the kids had pulled away from their ice cream cones. "For being here. I never imagined I could feel this way again." As he took her hand and gave it a reassuring squeeze, she finally understood. They were not just patching old wounds, they were creating something new, a family modeled in love and support. The future no longer felt daunting but filled with promise. This was their story, a journey of connection, of overcoming fears while embracing each other's truths. As the sun set, waves of hope washed over her, and in that moment, she felt at home, knowing they were ready to face life's challenges together. The only question that lingered now was how far this journey would take them, united in the beautiful chaos of life they were choosing together. As you reflect on Sarah's transformative journey, consider your own path. Are you ready to embrace the changes in your life? If you found inspiration in this story, you need to subscribe now. Don't let another moment pass without being part of this community. Leave a like now to help boost our reach, and comment below with your thoughts. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need encouragement on their journey. This is the moment to show your support.